importance of a treasurer report. My name is Rachel Kessel, and I am a community engagement specialist with Church World Service. I'm based out of Michigan. So I'll try to make this as quick as I can while highlighting the importance of these treasurer's reports. So the biggest thing that I want to emphasize is as you're collecting these funds before you have this final treasurer's report is to make sure that you're sending money early and often to CWS. The sooner it's received, the sooner our neighbors are helped for CWS and your local agencies. It's also the sooner that things are wrapped up for you and off your plate. And if funds trickle in later on, that's totally fine. You can always send those in, but don't wait, especially if it's just one check or a few checks you're waiting on, regardless of the amount of those checks. So I want to talk about the importance of treasurer reports for your walk community. This allows your planning team, your team captains, and your walkers to know how much they raised individually, as a team, and as a walk overall. You can share this, churches can share this with their congregations, can be shared in news articles in your community, and it can help measure how your walk is doing overall. When it comes to the importance of these reports for Church World Service, it helps us to not only know how much money your walk raised, but with knowing how much your walk raised, it helps us to know the funds that we have for the programmatic work that your funds are supporting. It also helps us to ensure that what we've received matches what your report says. So in the rare case of a discrepancy, maybe there's one check that didn't get sent in. It allows us to kind of catch that and see where that difference is and to just make sure that everything is sent in and accounted for. It also helps us to know, especially if there are any funds that are sent directly to CWS that we should be looking out for. So this could be a check from a congregation, an individual, but especially retirement, checks coming from retirement accounts or matching donations from organizations. Those typically are sent from the companies directly to CWS. So if that's the case, please be sure to let us know, but also those reports help us to know how much to look for. It also helps our organization with different reports and budgeting, which may not be the most fun part about this, but also a very important part about these reports. Church World Service creates what we call cream of the crop reports for all of the crop hunger walks across the country. These are done for top teams, top donors, walkers, sponsors, and walks. It also helps us to know, especially if you have a top sponsor or donor that has made a cash donation. So that helps Church World Service to be able to know that these individuals made a cash donation in a large amount to Church World Service. For any donations made by an individual over $250, CWS also sends them a tax, excuse me, I'm biting a cold a little bit here. It also, CWS sends them a tax receipt for to be able to file their taxes that year. So like I said, this is especially important for us to be able to know if the donation is cash because it's not as easily trackable on our end. It also helps for our organization's budget to know how much we can plan for different programs that are coming from crop hunger walks. And it also helps us to see your walk's potential and growth in areas where we can help you succeed with your goals. So I want to talk some about the logistics of the treasurer's report. One thing I want to highlight is to update the teams that are listed on your report. CWS does send a paper treasurer report that you can use, but we also have a lot of treasurers that prefer to use some sort of digital or online report, whether that's Excel, Microsoft Excel, Google Sheets, or a similar program. So I just want to talk about how it's important to update the teams on this list. So if you have a new team that joins, whether that's a business team or a faith group or congregation, you can write that in at the bottom of the list from CWS or add it to your Excel sheet. Also with that sheet that comes from Church World Service, if you have teams that have been on there for 5-10 years and haven't participated, make a note of who those teams are separately, but you can cross them off on that report so that we can make sure that the one that is sent to you the following years doesn't have those teams on there and just includes the teams that you need to account for. kind of simplifying that process for you. And I want to talk a little bit as well about creating these treasurer's reports online. So if you do opt to not use the one from Church World Service and prefer to use Excel or Sheets or another program similar, the important information to include on those reports is your walk name, the team names, how much each team raised, and ideally a breakdown of online totals for each team and any funds not raised online, whether that's cash, check, retirement, matching grants, those sorts of things, as well as the overall that amount that your walk raised. Now, one thing that I think can sometimes be missed when making these reports online that's really important for CWS and for your walk is to make sure that you include top donors, sponsors, and walkers. So this allows us, as I mentioned, to recognize these individuals, to give them their tax receipts, or statements, I should say, tax statements, but also it helps with that list of cream of the crop too, and just allows us to be aware of those individuals that are really supporting the work of CWS in your local agencies in a really big way. Something you may not know about is that there is an option to submit your treasure report through email to CWS. You can send this to your community engagement specialist, but ideally there is a specific email which is on the treasured packet information, but might have been missed. So that email is forms@cwsglobal.org. And this goes to our funds processing team so that they can properly save that report, make sure that it's received to the right individuals. And it's also make sure that your community engagement specialist receives this report. So you can copy your community engagement specialist on that email as well, which is really helpful. And if you do choose to use the paper treasure report that's sent from CWS, make sure to let your community engagement specialist know once that's sent, and ideally make a copy of it for your records, and then even email that or mail that to your community engagement specialist as well, so that we're able to have access to that as soon as possible, especially if there's any questions. So, as I mentioned at the beginning, when you're accounting for these funds, this treasurer's report is the final count for funds for your walk. But as you're collecting these funds and as you're counting them, send them in batches to CWS. Send them in early and often so that the funds are able to be accounted for. The funds are able to be processed. Our processing team is fantastic. But during walk seasons, they're also processing funds from hundreds of prep hunger walks across the country. So it does ease the load on their end as well. But overall, it allows the money to go towards the program participants and those of our neighbors that are in need sooner. So I just want to end by thanking you for your job as treasurer. Know that your community engagement specialist in Church World Service as an organization and all of our staff are here to support you. So please be sure to keep us in the loop, communicate with us. Let us know how it is that we can help you. If there's any questions, we're more than happy to be here for you. And I will put a shameless plug in that there will be several of these shorter videos on treasurer duties. And as our online systems have changed, some online reports have changed, there's been some changes as an organization recently. So I would just take some time to watch each of these videos. You might learn something new, even if you've been a treasurer for 40 years. So please take the time to watch these videos, reach out if you have any questions, and know how appreciated you are by CWS and your community.